Hello and welcome to the Grumpy Old Man Wrestling Podcast. My name is Rick Crabb, and much like Nia Jax, my pain in the ass is sitting next to me right here, Mr. Chris Filato.
The whole effing show.
And hopefully we'll get a whole lot of listeners, especially from our guest coming up later on in the program. So I think I'm definitely looking forward to that interview, Chris. You know,
yes.
I think she'll have a lot of things to say. Okay, I spoiled part of it already, but anyway. Well, if you're listening to this now, you see it in the description. So what the heck? Yeah. Monique Dupree will be joining us later on from House of Hardcore and Impact Wrestling. So we're definitely looking forward to asking her a whole lot of questions. But before we do that, as usual, Chris, it's been a slow week of wrestling. There's absolutely nothing to talk about.
I fell asleep during the shows.
Well, there's some that I wish I would have fallen asleep, and we'll get to that.
Yeah, especially if it's Monday night. You know what that is.
Right.
You know.
Well, this week we had Impact and NXT shows after their respective pay-per-views. First of all, as far as the pay-per-views themselves, Chris, what did you think of them?
Takeover was fantastic. From one up to down, I didn't see one bad match the entire time. No Surrender, also a great show. Great matches from top to bottom. Nothing wrong with it. The thing that got me, and it hit me right in the heart, was the Tommy Dreamer promo in the beginning, the video promo where he talked about his kids. He talked about not be able to move out of bed. He has to sleep on one side. Being older. We're both the same. We're all the same age bracket. But we don't know how it feels. But he's been doing this. He's been doing bumps for a while, and it kind of hits you where it feels a little bit, you know.
Yep, and he had celebrated his 50th birthday last week, and one present was a title shot against Swan at the pay-per-view itself. Although I wouldn't really call it a celebration after getting attacked not once but twice by the Moose. So.
He got stampeded on. But I watched Impact over the week, and they're still pushing the Moose versus Rich Swann thing, which I will say this: Moose is going to win that title. If they're still doing this cross-promotional thing, and if Kenny still wants to be the belt collector, would you want to see a Kenny Omega Moose program or a Kenny Omega Rich Swann program?
I'm not a fan of Kenny Omega. I'd rather see him be like on a witness protection program. That's who I'd like to see. But
who would you rather see him against?
I'm not a fan of Omega, but he has a star status. I think either of those guys would be beneath him, to be honest with you.
Even Moose?
Yeah.
Because Moose, I'm seeing shit from Moose that I've never seen from a big guy.
Don't get me wrong, I think Moose would be a great champion. I just don't see him having good matches with Omega, though.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's a good fit.
But, yeah. And you want to talk about Sammy Guevara?
We can talk about that, but there's one thing I wanted to ask you about with NXT. I had heard that people were concerned about O'Reilly, and some people speculated that he was having a stroke.
I heard he's a diabetic, so he could have had a diabetic seizure. I did not see this per se. I was watching the show. From what I heard, this happened after the cameras went off the air. He had some kind of seizure, and he had to be stretchered out.
From what I heard, it was storyline, and I had heard I watched it on What Culture, and I think on
Wrestle Talk.
I didn't see it on Wrestle Talk. I saw another YouTube news source. They were basically saying that they were complaining that they used his information about him being a diabetic, and then WWE kind of ran with it, tried to make it part of the storyline, which they thought was in bad taste, and I would tend to agree with that, actually.
They have a bad habit of doing that, you know that.
Yeah. Well, it's not uncommon. Wrestling promotions have been doing that since Abraham Lincoln first wrestled for the NWA stuff. Still,
it's been around that long. But what I saw on TakeOver, the match, the two Dusty Classic Cup matches were fan-fucking-tastic. You got Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez. I will say this, I'm still saying this, they're building her to be the next China.
Mm-hmm.
They are building her to be the next muscle beast woman. But she moves around better than China ever did. I hate to say that. Her and Rhea Ripley are the future of this business right now. And them against, I forgot who it was. It was against Ember and Shotzi.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a great match. It was a fantastic match. You got four girls who can work their asses off, and it's moron proof.
Right.
And then you had how do they pronounce themselves? The grizzled young veterans.
Right.
Against MSK, if anybody watches Impact, the Rascals.
All right.
And the Rascals are great guys. I mean, granted, they had to change the gimmick because they can't be the pot smokers in a treehouse, which they did of that 70s show circle gimmick, which was fucking hilarious.
Right.
And they're great. I mean, they're great. And then we got to see the man of the hour, Dummy. Yeah.
Oh yeah. L.A. Knight.
Yes.
Formerly Eli Drake.
From Hagerstown, Maryland. But they did a video piece with him where he came knocking at his door on Wednesday night. It says, "What time is it, Dummy?" They all they did was change his name. The gimmick hasn't changed. He's still the loudmouth, cocky bastard that he is, and I love it every minute of it.
And they should keep it that way.
Yes.
I mean, he's tremendous on the mic. Now, you had mentioned about Sammy Guevara. Yeah, there's a little bit of chicanery with that as well.
You know probably the story better than I do. What's going on with that? He was supposed to show up at Impact, but he never did.
Yes, and it wasn't made clear what it was, but apparently he didn't agree with anything he didn't agree with what they were going to use him on as far as the Impact storyline or that particular match, which kind of surprises me from what you told me off air, is that he was in position to maybe get the X Division belt.
And what is that? What did Austin Aries, when he was X Division champion, you got option C. He could cash in an X Division title for a world title shot.
Right.
And that would be, again, him against Rich Swann or him against Moose.
As far as who should be a champion in that company, to stand within that company, I say Moose. I think Moose
looks like a champion.
And he looks like a killer. He looks like he should be a champion, and he should do it by running over
hoof prints on him.
Right.
Putting hoof prints on these people.
Yeah. And he can do it without complaining about his hole, but you know.
Yeah, and like you usually, have you been watching Impact?
Highlights. They're starting to grow on me, although they still have the stupid thing with the casino and the cash and all that.
Well, the thing is, we got to remember COVID. They're limited in what they could do and what talent they can bring in, so they got to fill up the time.
They can fill up the time with good storytelling and good matches. That's
yes.
bullshit. That's a lazy ass excuse.
Yeah.
And granted, there are other companies that have stupid storylines.
We're watching it on here.
Right, yeah. Watching SmackDown as we're recording this. But now, one thing I mentioned that I enjoy watching MLW. Now, they had a special episode this week where they did it supposedly from Filthy Island. And let me explain what this was. Tom Lawler has his faction called Team Filthy, and they've been advertising for about a month about how he was going to arrange kind of a pay-per-view. Well, except it wasn't a pay-per-view. It was part of the regular Fusion viewing. Basically, he was going to host an episode of Fusion somewhere in Hawaii at his special Hawaiian paradise. And part of it was stupid, but I kind of enjoyed it, but it was stupid though. Basically what it was, if you remember the NWO sold out pay-per-view,
yeah,
where you had the heel faction kind of being the announcers and making their members the baby faces and such. Think that at a clips for sale budget, okay?
Jesus Christ.
Supposedly they had this kind of like in the backyard of the Von Erichs, okay? They had a ring literally with no ring ropes. They had seats around it which were just members of Team Filthy. They had like lawn chairs. They had this couch that looked like it was dragged out of a crack house in Park Heights, okay?
It looks like Talking Shopomania.
Pretty much. Although I think this MLW kind of does their stuff like a month or two in advance, kind of like Ring of Honor does. So this was probably done for... The reason I think that is because the current X Division, TFP, is also on that program, too. But anyway, they had that, and they even had a thing where it's like they were bragging about the catering. The catering was each wrestler got a can of Spam. And it wasn't even the Hormel Spam, it was like the Armor Dollar Tree off-brand Spam, okay?
I got Mighty Python in my head now.
It got to the point where Rich Holiday and Hammerstone came out, and Rich Holiday's being a snob, he's all disgusted. It's like, ew, I'm not sitting on that couch or anything like that. Meanwhile, Hammerstone's like, dude, give me some of that Spam. You got any more? You know, so long story short, you had those matches. You had the main event, which was King Mo versus Low Ki, which was a feud that they were doing, and Low Ki wound up winning, and then Team Filthy wound up jumping Low Ki. Meanwhile, the Von Erichs were like a couple miles away on their ranch on a Jeep. They crashed the party, and they wrecked the set, and they beat everybody up, and everybody goes home. Of course, and in between that, they also had a match that was supposed to be in Chichen Itza, Mexico, between Mil Muertes and Savio Vega.
Wait, what?
Yeah, Savio Vega's been in that company for a while.
Now, let me ask you something about Low Ki. When the last time I saw Low Ki, he was at Impact. He's doing the Hitman gimmick with the red tie and the white button-up shirt. Is he still doing that?
He kind of was for a little bit. Now he's kind of gone back to his roots. He's just promoting himself as just a street fighter from Brooklyn. He's kind of normalized his gimmick a little bit.
I have an old shoot interview with Sonny from the old RF video series, and she said the only person that really believes his gimmick is Low Ki. He thinks he's the badass walking the planet right now.
Right.
And do you think?
I could see that. I mean,
was he the first ever Ring of Honor champ?
He may have been. I remember seeing him in CZW. I mean, back in the day before you even started. Yeah. So I mean, but yeah, it is. I mean, that company is kind of fun. I mean, they have the heel faction that I enjoy, Contra, with Jimmy Fatu and Joseph Samael, and there's one gentleman, I forget his name, he's in Impact now too, I forget his name. He's like a new member of Contra, but they're doing the invasion thing, the kind of like the Sami Callihan hacking thing in the middle of the broadcast with their own propaganda stuff, and kind of cool.
Do you think MLW, like NWA and Ring of Honor, is that bridge between all the promotions now?
I think they were already. Even pre-COVID, I mean, they had a lot of indie guys. They had Joey Ryan there. They had MJF while he was while AEW was starting out. He was over there for a while. They definitely do have a big crossover. They already have a good relationship with AAA. And one match that they had, not in this episode, but the previous one, they had a title-for-title match between Lito Rush, the middleweight champ of MLW, versus the cruiserweight champ of AAA, the Laredo Kid. Lito Rush wound up winning both belts.
You were talking about Fatu. Mm-hmm. The other subject I want to talk about is I watched the documentary on Yokozuna.
Yeah.
And I said this on previous shows, I never knew how deep that family is in the business.
Oh, yeah.
Fatu, Yokozuna and Rikishi are brothers.
Right.
I never knew that, and I didn't know about I thought they were part of Offensika's immediate family. I didn't think they were nephews.
Right.
And it was a bittersweet, bitter, sad ending about this documentary, how his weight killed him. Because he was close to 700 pounds when he died.
Right.
But from what I heard outside the gimmick, he was just one of the nicest, sweetest guys you ever met.
Right.
And he was trying to start a rap career. Because he was writing rhymes when he was in the WWE.
Interesting. Yeah, especially since his character, he never got to speak.
Yeah. The interesting thing, they didn't talk to, I don't think they did in this documentary, they didn't talk to Cornette. Even though Cornette was the mouthpiece.
Right.
And they show old footage of him and Mr. Fuji.
Right.
They said, their father said, Eddie, was it Rodney? Rodney and Fatu to their uncles to train because he was getting into trouble, and to train as a wrestler and get his head on straight. Mm-hmm. And the Samoans did that, and they talked to Alpha and Sika, and Alpha and Sika are probably have the best wrestling school in the country. Because look at what they produce out right now, other than family members. Mm-hmm. But when I saw that, it made me appreciate the Inoue family even more. What do you think of it?
I didn't see it, but I saw a Cornette comment about it, and he basically said a lot of the same things, a lot of positive things about Yokozuna. He even told a story about where I think WWE had sent him to kind of like a camp to lose weight.
A fat camp, yeah.
And he was sneaking in fried chicken.
They even mentioned that in the documentary.
Right.
These are part of that Icon series, and I love that outside of wrestling, WWE's documentary series are second to none.
I don't know. I don't know. I think Dark Side of the Ring might have something to say about that.
It's a close second, and I'll watch any of the interview shows because that's the closest thing to a shoot interview you will get. Because back before there was internet and networks and all that, we got the videotapes. We got the DVDs of these shoot interviews when they left major companies.
Right.
And now it's open for everybody. Mm-hmm. You want to talk about the thing that everybody's talking about at the end of AEW?
The exploding barbed wire
death match.
Okay, I remember seeing Onita doing matches like that, and I remember there was one he had with Terry Funk when the bombs didn't blow up. And in fact, it's funny you say that. I was watching, you probably remember I think you have it, the Forever Hardcore, the ECW documentary that was not done by WWE.
Yeah.
Joey Styles commented about a match that was between Bad Company, the team that was called Bad Company, and AWA against Public Enemy. And they had a match like that, and the bombs didn't go off. And he was like just laughing about that. I don't know. I thought that was... It's one thing if you have like the barbed wire where you have the firecracker sparks and all that stuff. Okay, that's one thing. But, come on. You're not... I mean, it's one thing if you're talking about Japan. Who, in their right mind, is going to have a bomb underneath a wrestling match in a concert venue next to a football stadium that's probably run by the city of Jacksonville, and then by the way, videotape while this bomb is about to go off with 2 people in it and a bunch of people around. Yes, there's a suspension of disbelief, but come on. You honestly think if that were a shoot, you think they would let that happen? I mean, Homeland Security would be on that bitch if that were the case.
About 4 years ago, CCW promoted a exploding barbed wire match.
Right.
Inside where the Flyers practice.
Yeah.
They brought in Onita.
Right.
I met Onita against Bulldozer Matt Tremont. And the only thing that exploded in the barbed wire was the firecrackers on a bat. And even Onita went off on it on a mic. I mean, that's why they promoted the big barbed wire exploding match in Japan against Onita and Tremont. It's a wait and see because we don't know what they're planning for AEW, especially after that hardcore match here in Baltimore they had.
Right.
Which
a lot of that was bullshit because that wasn't even real barbed wire in a lot of that they used. I mean...
Well, the blood was real. They were both bloody messes.
But... Yeah.
But even Renee Young on Twitter, she's even saying, if my water breaks, I'm blaming both of you. Because she just recently did her Oral Sessions podcast with her husband, John, and they talk about this match, from what I understand. I haven't listened to it yet. Right. Probably going to listen to it tomorrow or Sunday. Mm-hmm. But...
I don't know. 20 years ago, I probably would have been excited about it. Now, I think it's a big crock of shit. But I'm waiting to see, like you. I'll give it a chance, but I don't have high expectations for it.
Our former little colleague Beverly, I talked to her. She's all for it. Then again, she's all blood and guts all the time.
But the thing is, it's not going to be blood and guts. That's what I'm trying to say, Chris. It's bullcrap. It's going
to be gimmick after gimmick.
It's a bait and switch, yeah.
It's going to be shenanigans all over the place.
Right.
And there was some fantasy booking I saw on an AEW chat group on Facebook. As of last Friday, her no-compete clause is done. Zelina Vega is a free agent to go wherever she wants.
Okay.
How would you like to see Pride and Powerful,
Easy for you to say.
leave the Inner Circle and be managed by Zelina Vega?
I don't know. She would fit in with that company for different reasons, though. She's a big video game fanatic, and that's
a cosplayer.
And that's what a lot of AEW wrestlers and their fans are, So especially over Radiga, but
and she can wrestle and she can work. Even back when she was Rosita in the old TNA days with Sarah Stock, Sarita.
Right, yeah.
And she learned a lot from her husband.
Mm-hmm.
Her former boyfriend was Austin Aries. Like I said, she probably learned from all these.
Right.
And we've seen her work in the ring in WWE. She could be an asset to that women's division there that they desperately need right now.
Mm-hmm.
I watched, like you did, the Rio match. We're not big fans of Rio.
No.
We're big fans of Serena Deeb.
Yes.
We all know the next match Rio's got is against Rosa. And I hope Rosa beats the living crap out of her.
But she's not, because that's not, just like I keep hoping that she and Orange Cassidy lose, but they're pushing them to the moon. And I almost turned off Dynamite after that happened, I'll be honest with you, Chris. It was,
yeah.
I was like, I don't know. And then they had the stupid match between Pockets and Uncle Fester. And I'm not a big fan of Luther, but Luther is a scary looking dude. He looks like he's big enough to kick your ass.
From what I understand, he was from Big Japan, and he's a former deathmatch wrestler. I think
Orange Cassidy looks like me when I was in my junior year in high school and a clerk at 7-Eleven. Okay? No.
I'm not supposed to be here today.
Right.
What was the other thing? And MJF being the best heel in the business still to this day.
Oh yeah, no doubt about that. Elaborate on that if you will.
But he kept on saying, what did Jericho say? It's like, it's mostly your fault, but it's mostly Sammy's fault of him leaving the Inner Circle.
Right.
And you could see the implosion coming between Jericho and MJF, where Jericho's going to make that face turn.
Yeah, because he's going to get dumped by him and Sammy and going to find out they were in cahoots. Now, let me ask you this, though, and I'm surprised you haven't been jumping at the bit, because any other time we talk about it, you're so excited about what I call the Hot Topic Wars, as opposed,
Oh, yeah, the New Japan invasion.
Okay, so interesting comments.
We won't get any New Japan guys here because of COVID and the 2-week quarantine, because they're going to have a bunch of shows in I think Osaka next week.
You're right.
And it's going to be called Castle Attack. Lance Archer put some very ominous tweets. What was his faction? What faction was he part of in New Japan?
Suzuki-gun.
And what tweets, what GIFs has he been posting on Twitter? Minoru Suzuki. If they can get like a 3-week, 4-week, maybe even a 5-week window of where they can come over, do the quarantine, do a couple shows, then go back quarantine, go back to do theirs. How would you like to see Minoru Suzuki in AEW?
Well, funny you mention that. If you remember, prior to COVID, during WrestleMania weekend, I forget the promotion, but somebody booked a match between...
It was a Joey Janela Spring Break.
Yeah, it was Suzuki versus Pockets.
Yeah.
And I said to you off the air, I'll say this now. Khan family, Tony or your father who owns the Jaguars. I'm a Baltimore Ravens fan. I used to hate the Jaguars when Mark Brunell played for them, but I will be a Jacksonville Jaguars season ticket holder.
For
if
life.
You book that match between Suzuki and Pockets, and you let Suzuki beat Pockets into Orange Pulp. Beat him in a Pulp Fiction.
While laughing.
Yes.
When after we left last time with our friend, I showed her the Jay Lethal Suzuki match where they're just trading chops, and Suzuki's laughing in his face And it's just terrifying. And it's scary. And it's enjoyable at the same time.
And with his hair and that laugh, he reminds me like a hardcore SpongeBob SquarePants.
Yeah, he does. I do not want to see Kota Ibushi over here. I'm not a big Kota Ibushi. I know him and Omega are like very super tight. He wants to be pronounced as God in New Japan because he has both belts.
Right.
After the title defense against Sanada, and I watched both New Beginning shows. After the title defense against Sanada, Sanada's fellow LIJ stablemate Naito comes out, who he beat Naito for both belts. Naito wants the IC belt. He doesn't want the world title. He just wants the secondary title. So at Castle Attack, we're going to get Kota Ibushi defending the secondary belt against Naito. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how they're going to do that. Finn Juice being an Impact. When you want to talk about that?
Yes, and I thought it was interesting how they were talking about how when they were in Japan, they were... I forget the Japanese term, but basically they were the butlers for the...
They were the young boys.
The young boys. And I love the fact that you had... Now you have this back and forth between Tama Tonga and these clowns. Now, you keep saying, okay, yeah, New Japan's not going to be able to bring any... because of reality and because of COVID and because of the government and all that other stuff. But they're planting the seeds. And would not surprise me that when regulations are relaxed, you do see that.
Oh, yeah.
Because you had... I mean, I thought it was interesting how, like Callis and the Good Brothers were saying to Thomas, like, well, now you're letting mid-carders into the Bullet Club. And Thomas, like, us having mid-carders? Your whole damn company's full of mid-carders.
I read that, yeah.
And I was like, bravo, Thomas.
I have not watched Thomas' Twitch show that I've been hearing is fantastic, and he's been just ripping into Omega, Callis, and the Bucks, and all that. It's a Bullet Club civil war basically, and they can't touch each other because of the regulations, governments, and COVID, and all that shit. Right?
Oh, he said this hilarious line about Omega. He was like making fun of him and said, "First of all, Omega, that's an old shirt. You gotta buy some new gear, bro. Second of all, the lettering on your shirt was orange. Your skin was orange. Dude, you need to use something besides maple syrup to tan in the booth."
The thing is, the Tongans, the Gorillas, live in California. They could stay away from New Japan for maybe a couple of shows and not defend the tag belts. They're the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Champions. They could come over here.
I was going to say, I'm surprised that hasn't happened yet. I fully expect them to.
It's coming. You know what? The Gorillas are coming. And when the Gorillas are coming, they're going to destroy things. If you haven't seen... Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't seen what the Gorillas of Destiny are like, they are the sons of Haku, Ming, whatever his name is, from WWE, WCW. And supposedly, in real life, one of the toughest sons of bitches in the business.
Yeah, basically he told one drunken fool at the Safari Club here in Baltimore, he played the game that your parents probably played with you and played with me as a kid. Got your nose.
Oh, you don't do that to him.
No. Haku basically had this guy's nose as an hors d'oeuvre because he dared get into his face. No.
Their finisher is the Magic Killer. Which you can see the Good Brothers kind of like looking at that cockeyed a little bit,
Well, what I want to know, Chris, is how are they going to get booked if they do this? Because, I mean, they're feuding with heels. And the Bullet Club are basically heels. So, I mean...
The Super Elite and the Bullet Club?
Well, I'm talking about the real Bullet Club, the Tamas.
Yeah. Tama Tonga, Tama Loa, Bad Luck Fale, Chase Owens, Nijiro Takahashi. I love his gimmick. He's the Tokyo Pimp. And he comes out with girls wearing barely anything in the rabbit mask.
Oh, yeah, there he goes.
And I forgot there's another member out there. And they got Gato and Jado.
Point is, they're the actual Bullet Club now, and these other people are... You could say Bullet Club alumni, but, I mean, they've gone on to... I wouldn't say better things. I'd say bigger things. Although Impact don't even say bigger either, so I don't know. It's like...
Well, what'd you think of Tony, the latest paid, quote, air quotes, paid announcement from AEW and Impact? Khan is coming onto his own.
Yeah. Oh, he's having fun with that. You know he is.
And from what I'm hearing, they filed copyright for the phrase "forbidden door."
Oh, which is smart.
Yeah, which is smart.
I'm surprised they don't have he should have a T-shirt with that.
And did you hear what Cody Rhodes said on some podcast about working with Vince? Vince.
No.
He said the door's open. The door's open, but it's up to Vince to walk through. And it's not going to happen. It's never going to happen as long as Vince is alive and still in control of the company. Because that's fantasy. That's fantasy booking's dreams right there. Because how would you like to see AEW and WWE in one ring?
Well, not unless it's basically what happened at the end of Nitro, where he winds up buying AEW, which I don't see that happening.
No.
I don't, because I mean,
like the whole invasion angle.
Yeah, tell you the truth, it doesn't even seem like WWE wants wrestling. I don't think they would want to do that now.
What's the E stand for?
Entertainment.
Yeah, that's what they want to be.
Yeah, they sold their stuff to Peacock, and
Peacock.
If Vince does step away, I don't know.
Hunter says he's open for it, I think.
But then again, maybe not. If he might just broker a deal with Hulu or Disney Plus to buy when the Peacock deal.
I forgot where I heard it from. Back in the days of Vince Sr., he always did deals with Eddie Graham in Florida and say, "Can you bring some of your guys up? I'll send some of my guys down."
Right. Yeah, he worked with the territory.
Yeah. But when Vince Jr. took over, he gobbled up those territories.
Exactly.
And to the point where back in the 80s, there was only the big three. Vince, NWA, and AWA. And AWA died a slow death.
And that was basically because their talent was gutted in the early 80s.
And Vern Gagne didn't know how to fucking run a company.
Yeah. Oh, I wouldn't say that. He knew how to run it. He didn't know how to keep up with the times then.
Yeah.
He didn't know how to do it. Basically Vince figured out how to do it modern for that time, and, Vern Gagne was stubborn, thought, I made all this money for 30 years, I could still do it,
What was it I heard that when the Midnight Rockers were brought in, Marty Jannetty and Shawn Michaels, he thought the word rocker meant rocking chair.
What?
I'm not kidding you. That's what I heard. That's what Vern Gagne thought. Rocker meant rocking chair. Yeah, that's how far behind he was. And then when they did that, I forgot what that big tournament they had towards the end of the company's run, when Zbyszko was champion, they had empty arena shows because nobody was going to shows at the casinos.
Right. It was that thing with the teams and all that. Yeah, that was crazy, yeah.
Yeah, and I forgot what the winner of the bullshit got. The other thing I want to talk about is Little Miss Bliss and the promo from hell.
Yep.
What's your take on it?
It's consistent with the character. I'm not building up a whole lot. A lot of people are thinking, oh, wow, that means the Fiend's coming. You don't know what the hell's going to happen there because WWE doesn't know what the hell's going on. It kind of turned into Nitro. You hear a lot of shoot interviews, they talk about Nitro, it's like wrestlers are like 5 minutes to 9. Who am I wrestling? Fuck if I know, leave me alone.
Yeah, pretty much.
And that's the way WWE cards as long as Mr. Burns is there. Because they'll change it at the last minute.
Send out the hounds.
Release
the hounds.
Smithers.
Yeah, even again, the 3-week push, then it's gone. We know a lot of people, I know people and you know people in the Wicca community.
Yeah.
If you face the pentagram, it's white magic. If you face the bottom of the pentagram, it's black magic. She was performing a satanic ritual. So what if people didn't light up fucking switchboards, Twitter, whatever, and complaining about this?
That just goes to show you how far down wrestling has gone. Because when they did have more mainstream acceptability, they probably wouldn't have done that.
Like the Pillman gun thing, which lit up the switchboards at USA Network from what I heard.
I am surprised in the Attitude Era, the crucifixion thing with Undertaker and Steve Austin didn't.
It did.
It didn't it didn't seem to as much.
As much as the Pillman gun thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think there was more of a stink in the ECW version with Raven and Sandman before that. But
and watching the match, the gauntlet match, Monday night, and having Randy Orton, I like what Russell Talk said. He had his attention diverted by TV screens, basically.
Right.
And
kind of like us recording this show. But.
Yeah. And it kind of makes fun. I don't know where they're going with this, and I got a feeling he's going to show up in the chamber. They're heavily teased that. And if you look at the pentagram, where the counters were, they were like the chamber pods. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'm digging too deep into it.
I could see a thing where they somehow rig one of the chamber pods and it'd be like empty, they shoot like a flame, and then he would appear somehow.
He'd be like the new Kane?
I guess, or, yeah, it's...
Are we going to see a Fiend, or are we going to see Mr. Rogers, or are we going to see a new iteration?
Might see a new iteration. We might see 2 Fiends.
A female and a male?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'll tell you who else might be a Fiend.
Who?
I had heard that WWE is talking again to Bo Dallas.
Yes, because when was the last time we actually saw him anywhere? It was 2019.
Yeah, the B team.
Yeah, he's been catering. Mm-hmm. They won't. There's questions of why they keep him. Simple answer. Look who his brother is. They keep him there because of his brother.
Well, that plus their father too. Yeah.
Well, his father was one of the furloughs from April last year.
Yeah.
And I don't think they brought him back yet, except for that Legends night. That was it. And they're basically keeping him there to keep Bray happy.
Well, I don't know how they're really keeping him happy by sitting him, but I guess he wanted.
He's getting paid.
Yeah. He's getting paid, and he probably wanted some time off too. So.
And I remember 3 years ago there was a rumor that their real life sister was being trained, Mika. She looks just like them. A female.
I wonder they didn't make her Sister Abigail.
There were rumors about that. You know what the original plan for Sister Abigail was supposed to be? Rosemary.
Oh, okay.
But she resigned with Impact. Hmm. Oh, going back to Impact, we forgot to mention this, and we talked about the AAA thing. Impact also has an agreement with AAA. We saw Taurus.
Yeah.
Black Taurus.
Oh, yeah.
Black Taurus. From what I heard, it was supposed to be Sammy Guevara that was the thing we were talking about. Sammy Guevara was supposed to be part of Decay.
Okay.
And he didn't like that. That's why he didn't go. Taurus, if you haven't seen him, describe Taurus to him.
Big.
Big with a bull's head. Literal bull's head with a nose ring. And he can move like a cruiserweight.
He's Luchasaurus, but he's a lot more serious.
Yes. I mean, this guy looks scary. He looks like a killer.
He looks like he should be in a malt liquor commercial.
Yes, basically, yeah. And when I saw him on the pay-per-view, this is my first time seeing him as Black Taurus. Not Taurus. Sorry, that's the American pronunciation. The Mexican pronunciation is Taurus. I saw him as Taurus when they did their shows in Mexico. He was a bet. I like this version of Taurus. The Black Taurus is great. I like to see... I think he's a perfect replacement for Abyss. Mm-hmm. You think so?
Yeah.
If they want to restart Decay as a faction. Because that sort of sounds like they're doing right now. And if they can keep him here instead of going back to Mexico doing all the protocols and all that, that'd be great.
Well, I think it's interesting with Impact doing the agreement with AEW, and it's like they had the one tag team it's in Inner Circle. I forget their names. They were in the tag match this past week.
Proud and Powerful?
Yeah.
LAX.
Yeah, I'm surprised they're not referencing that they spent time there. I'm wondering if they will, since they have a working agreement.
Well, yeah, maybe, I don't know, because of Conan? I don't know if Conan has any heat there?
Maybe. And speaking of Conan, yeah, he's been... Well, I haven't seen him in a while. He was in MLW last I saw him.
He's been having health issues lately, and he's been hospitalized, not COVID.
Right.
But I'm hearing he's getting better right now. Mm-hmm. I hope Carlos... His real name's Carlos. I hope Carlos has a speedy recovery.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know this. Carl, he's not Mexican. He's Cuban.
Right.
But everybody thinks, well, he's Latino. They think he's automatically
Well,
Mexican.
plus he was successful in Mexico, too. So
In the mask. In the mask, when he had the mask on. That's the reason he didn't... He was the original choice for Max Moon. When he came... then he saw the... Well, I think...
That wouldn't be a moon. That would be a space station.
Yeah, that'd be a space station. And could you imagine what Vince could have done with Conan?
You think that about a lot of wrestlers, Chris, but you really don't know.
It's Vince.
Yeah, until you get into Mr. Burns' office.
And Kevin Dunn. Burns and Smithers.
Now, would you say Dunn is the Smithers, or would you say Bruce Pritchard?
Right now, Dunn has been Smithers for decades.
Yeah.
And Bruce Pritchard's Homer. Again, we're watching SmackDown. We're seeing a better show than Monday Night, and the same creative team is doing this. How is it so schizophrenic? I don't understand. Maybe comment something on YouTube. I mean, it's...
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I can think of is maybe Happy Heyman has some input with these guys, and they're coming up with some angles, you know. Even though he's not a writer, and Shane and Stepney, you know, refuses to acknowledge him as a writer and always wants to fight him on everything, you know.
Well, what's the two guys that Vince... Oh, the Keith Lee thing. Have you heard about this as of today?
Not today, no.
Vince has given up hope on Keith Lee.
Why?
He doesn't see anything in him. Yeah, I saw... That's the look the stunned look. I was like, this guy's one of the best fucking talents you got, and you don't see anything in him?
Especially with Vince. He's always had a wet dream for these big offenses.
The thing is, he doesn't do a Hulk Hogan type promo. That's why.
Oh.
The way he speaks, the way the denunciation he does. He doesn't speak and shout and all that.
They can... If they had anybody who knew how to cut promos anymore, which they don't,
no,
they could get him to work that out. They could get him to just... They could coach him on that. Or they could have given him a manager and just have him be a mute badass. You know?
That was Dusty's thing down in NXT, teaching these kids how to do promos. When Dusty died, I think that was a lost art.
Well, Vince doesn't want to teach anybody to do promos. He
has promo class, remember?
He wants them to memorize their promos, though.
And the other two people he lost interest in, one is Aleister Black, which we might have put him on the side of a milk carton.
Yeah.
And Andrade. Why are they keeping Andrade? Andrade's teasing about going back to NXT, which I think would be great for him.
Yeah.
Because he was a great NXT champion.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason he's there is because Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
The Omni Flare.
Huh?
Yeah. And right now we're watching SmackDown and the Omni Edge is on there.
Yeah.
But, you think it would be a better move for Andrade to move back down?
Yeah, except now really...
It's not a move down anymore.
It's not... Yes and no. Supposedly now it's a third brand, but... I don't know, I heard of reports where they revealed some of the salaries of some of the NXT people compared to the main roster guys were getting paid. And I mean, it was...
They're getting pennies while the other guys are getting dollars.
Well, I wouldn't say that. They're getting a good salary, but I don't know, like I think Cole, for example, I think was getting like 170, and some of the main roster guys get like 270. I mean, you know...
Well, it makes me wonder how much Britt Baker's pulling in AEW then. Because I can see them at home comparing paychecks.
Well, let's roll around in it, baby. Yeah.
Oh, that's another thing I want to mention about TakeOver. The heel turn that we all saw coming of Adam Cole.
Of course.
Because not only super kicking Finn Balor, but super kicking Kyle O'Reilly. And basically, Roderick Strong's in the middle of this and doesn't know what end to go to. Where do you think he's going to go? Is he going to be with Cole or with O'Reilly?
I think he'll probably be with O'Reilly at first because Fish is hurt, but I think then once Fish comes in, one of them will turn.
We're going to see the return of Red Dragon?
Maybe.
Because I thought, when they were in Ring of Honor, I thought Red Dragon were unbeatable.
Right.
And I thought they were great. And if they were called up to the main roster, I don't think Vince would know what to do with either one of them. Or any of them except for Cole.
That's the problem. I think the only one who knows what to do with those NXT or people from outside companies is Hunter.
Yeah. Because he went through the system. He was in WCW. He probably did indies before WCW. Killer Kowalski trained him. He knows the system. Let him run it. What I've been hearing is on SmackDown, Vince has been less and less there, and Hunter's been basically doing the Zoom thing, and letting Hunter run things.
Right.
That's why we're probably seeing a better show. I don't get. He can't be. He's that much of an egomaniac. He's that much of a control freak.
Well, I mean, you were talking before about Vern Gagne. I mean, he's old, and the fact that he was successful for a long time, that he thinks that same formula will still work, and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
But then again, you have to wonder if it isn't working for Smithers only because Smithers and Burns, because Mr. Burns made, like, how much did they make off of that Peacock deal?
$1 billion.
$1 billion, like Dr. Evil. Yeah.
And how much did they make off the Saudi deal? About half that?
Exactly. So they're
rolling in it.
So say what you want, I mean, about the wrestling product, the entertainment. We're fans of wrestling. We don't like what they're doing. But if you're a stockholder in that company, I think you would probably want to join the Vince McMahon Kiss My Ass Club.
The thing is, you've been hearing this and I've been hearing this about they're not getting promotions, they're not getting raises, and they just recorded record profits in their quarterly meetings.
Unfortunately, though, Chris, that's how a lot of rich people stay rich. They don't spend.
Okay. Tony Khan is, how old is he? He's in his 30s or 40s?
Yeah.
Young mind. Young guy in the business. Young brain in the business. What did Cornette say in one of his shoot interviews? If you surround yourself with young minds, you get young ideas. And that's what we're getting. We're getting some of the best young ideas in the business right now from them.
Well, he's getting young ideas. I don't know if it's the best one.
It's better than what we're seeing here? But
the
same old.
No. I mean, it's different, but sometimes different isn't always best. Perfect example, Orange Cassidy.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's a t-shirt sales. That's all he is. His merchandise sells. That's why they push him. Like they would push anybody here who has great merchandise sales, like Bad Bunny.
Oh God, yeah.
Our 24/7 champion.
Right, and who's
going to carry that
in merchandise sales on WWE.com? You know.
Speaking of which, do you know who the musical guest of SNL is tomorrow night?
Yes, he mentioned that on Raw.
Yeah, and he's going to have that belt on him. Could you imagine R-Truth showing up on Saturday Night Live?
They'll probably have him. They'll probably have some of the...
Because of the whole Peacock thing.
Yeah, they'll probably have some of the... And before that, they'll probably have other people trying to pin him, like some of the stumble bums on Saturday Night Live. I don't even watch that damn show. I have no desire to. Although I would laugh if, like, Amy Poehler or Alec Baldwin get their ass kicked. That would be cool. But other than that, you know.
But I think when we say the boys are running the boys are taking care of the boys in AEW, they're probably bouncing ideas off each other.
Right.
And they're seeing what sticks, and what sticks, even though you don't like Cassidy, it's sticking. His merchandise. It's what you look at. It's the sales.
Yeah.
The best talent they have, and you agree with me, is Rey Fenix.
Yeah.
The man is phenomenal.
Well, both Lucha Brothers.
Both Lucha Brothers.
Awesome.
And I don't know why Penta had... What kind of injury has Penta had?
I forget what it was.
Because when I watched the Triple Mania, he didn't come out with his brother. He did 5 seconds in the ring for their tag match, and he had to be carried out because of the injury angle. We haven't seen him in months.
Yeah.
We're supposed to get this ladder match coming up, which is going to be Cody, him, and who was the third person?
It was Cody, Scorpio Sky, and I forget.
I hope it's Scorpio Sky. Give the guy a push.
Yeah.
Because he's another great talent. Oh, now we're seeing the clusterfuck ending of
Although this was a good match, though,
yeah,
prior to this. I mean, they have decent matches on SmackDown. The matches themselves are great, even though they still do the stupid trope of beginning the show with a long-ass promo, especially with the head of the table.
Supper and Succotash?
Yeah, Supper and Succotash. Old Sylvester Samoan.
That's another one. I go back to Yokozuna. They talk to him, and he talks about how strong that family is.
Yeah.
And what? Is he the best of the Samoan family right now?
He's getting the biggest push. Yeah.
Better than his uncles and his brothers and all that shit.
Well.
And his cousins. What do you think?
It's hard to say.
You say you saw Fatu in MLW.
Yeah.
Is he getting a decent push?
He's he's their champion. Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, but, yeah, Fatu's not getting nearly the exposure that Reigns is. And Reigns, he's been there for a while.
Yeah.
He was a long-time babyface, and he was a champion then. And, he did a lot of Make-A-Wish things and all that. And a lot of people, and myself included, I think still wish him well, after fighting leukemia and all that. So,
And which gets me is, because of the outbreak still going on, and Vince basically lying to Roman. But then again, you can't control your talent outside of their infrastructure.
Not for lack of trying by Mr. Burns, though.
Yeah, because who got it and was fired because of it? Steve Cutler. Who's his girlfriend? The Knockouts champion, Deanna Purrazzo. That means she got it too.
Okay. All right. Well, listen.
We gotta cut this short.
We do have to cut this short because we have an interview coming up.
Yes, we do.
We're keeping this poor lady waiting. You're running your mouth about like you usually do.
I'm a verbal diuretic. Okay.
Yeah.
Pugs.
Clean up my couch when you're done.
Okay, Pugs.
Asshole.
Okay.
All right, folks. We're going to take a quick break, and we have a distinguished guest on the line, Ms. Monique Dupree from Impact Wrestling, also known from the House of Hardcore. You might have even seen her in the shower in some Troma films, but we'll be talking to her at great length here, and I think we're going to enjoy this interview, Chris. So.
Yes, we will.
All right.
See ya.
We'll be right. All right, folks, welcome back to the Grumpy Old Man Wrestling Podcast. Rick Crabb here with Chris Villito, and as promised, we have on the line, we have a very special guest. You may have seen her work in Impact Wrestling, as well as at the House of Hardcore. You may have also seen her in film, especially with Troma Entertainment, and you might have even seen her on tour with her band, a woman of many talents. Please welcome the original Gotta Miss Monique Dupree.
Hello, how are you guys?
All right.
We're doing great, especially since you're able to join us. Okay, Chris, I think you had some questions.
But the first time I ever met you was, 4 years ago? At one of Kevin's parties?
Yes,
and,
absolutely.
And the night you told me about the wrestling thing, you kind of floored me. I was like, okay. How long you been with House of Hardcore?
Since the beginning. Well, he started in 2012. Mm-hmm. I was at the first show, but I didn't work the first show. I worked the second show in early 2013, and I've been with the company ever since 2013.
Nice. Have you been a lifelong fan?
Yes, I have. I've been in love with wrestling since I'm about 10 years old. Wrestling actually kind of saved my life, which I know a lot of people have those kind of stories, but it really pulled me out of a dark spot that I was in when I was younger, and helped me to focus on something that was exciting, and to me that was pretty positive, which was wrestling, professional wrestling.
Did you ever go to one of the schools?
No, we had no money. I lived with my grandmother. We had no money. I couldn't even afford to go to shows. So I wasn't one of those fans that have the stories about growing up and going to a show and meeting somebody. None of that happened until my adulthood, but I sure made up for it once I became an adult. I would have to rely on watching everything WWF and then later WWE on television, because I didn't get a chance to go to any shows or to meet anybody until we started going to TNA house shows and WWE house shows.
Then you've been backstage at Impact. How's the Impact atmosphere?
Well, I was backstage since it was TNA. Yeah. Even though it was for a different reason. I was just a fan back then when myself and my daughter, who later became the double Duprees of House of Hardcore, we would be backstage just meeting the wrestlers, and you know, we were different than just like regular fans that were like, oh, I love these guys. We thought we understood professional wrestling. We did not, but we had a different kind of love for it, a passion for it. It's always exciting for me being backstage, being on the other end of things. And once I started production, it's a lot of hard work being backstage, but for me, it's also beneficial because being a part of the cog in the machine that kind of helps put things together and see things happen is just a beautiful thing. To me, it almost rivals going out and being in the ring.
Well, it's kind of like seeing the magic behind the curtain, isn't it?
Yes. I love all of that. I love the hustle and bustle and the craziness and the, oh my God, am I going to do this on time or get this right? Or Tommy's depending on me to do this. Am I going to let him down? Like, I love the excitement of that. It's probably because I have 10 children and I understand what it is to multitask.
Yeah. At one time you appeared on camera with Moose, if I remember correctly. Wasn't you?
Yes. Twice. I did once Bound for Glory. One of the Bound for Glories, I think it was 2018.
Okay.
They needed somebody to go out with him, and I just happened to be there because I was there with Tommy. And they were like, hey, do you have, like, you know, a certain outfit? And I'm like, yeah. So I went out with Moose, with 2 other women that were there too, and did Bound for Glory, which was, you know, like one of their big pay-per-views. And then later I did a spot in, we were in California, and I did a spot with him and his now wife, coming out with him too. We were at the beach or something to that effect. So I've done 2 spots with
I do remember that promo. Yeah, I do remember that video.
Yes.
Once again, we're speaking to Monique Dupree here on the Grumpy Old Man Wrestling Podcast. Now, Monique, obviously, it's affected a lot of wrestling promotions, especially Impact, as far as the COVID era. And how has that affected things as far as with Impact and also with you handling the operations for House of Hardcore? What has that been? What's the morale been? That kind of thing.
Well, the sad thing is that House of Hardcore had been on hiatus indefinitely until we figure out the next steps with COVID, because, of course, you know, Tommy's thing is everybody's safety. But, you know, with a lot of indie promotions, we rely heavily upon audiences. So without audiences, we can't really make the money that we need to be able to make to properly run the shows, because, you know, you want to make sure everybody's safe. You want to make sure it's a well-run show. You want to make sure everything's good. So Tommy had decided not to run those shows because he wanted to make sure, you know, everybody was safe ultimately. That's the main concern. with Impact, they're still running their shows and doing their thing. They just don't have a crowd, and it is a very different feel coming out and not having a crowd, because I know that even as a valet, when I would come from the curtain and those boos would always, boost me. My adrenaline would surge, and, I relied on that audience participation to get me going. I relied on the audience participation that if I felt like I wasn't doing something right, they got kind of quiet. You never really want that. So, I think it's harder for anybody in any promotion, doesn't matter what promotion it is, to have to deal with having no audience. I know that some companies have limited audience. I was at AEW, where they have very limited audience, and they did a very good job of making sure that people were spread out and nowhere near the talent, and all the talent is tested, and everything's, they take all the precautions, which is what you have to do to be able to run a successful promotion right now, is that you have to be able to take COVID tests constantly and just make sure you maintain everyone's safety. That's the name of the game right now, is everybody's safety first and foremost.
That's why WWE is doing the virtual crowds right now, and AEW is doing limited crowds, and I think New Japan's just start bringing half capacity crowds in.
What I liked about AEW, I have to say, is that, we had a camaraderie. Some of us were down there, people that said that they saw, me and Sonny kiss, down in the crowd, because, we were all tested and everything. And so we could be right there together, ringside, and just, we get to be able to be fans for a second. I think that's a wonderful thing, because even my limited experience in professional wrestling, being I've been in the business for 7 years, I'm still a huge fan of professional wrestling. So to be able to sit and watch as a fan and react as a fan was amazing to be able to do. And I hope I get to do that again, because I miss all of that. I miss that energy. It's something that you didn't realize just how important it was until it kind of got taken away.
Well,
go ahead.
You mentioned, as far as the camaraderie was AEW, and Chris had mentioned New Japan. How do you feel about the working relationship between those two companies and Impact so far? How's that been for you?
Well, I'm not really involved in that. I'll just say that I feel like any companies that work together, I don't ever see what the issue or the problem is with, companies when companies don't work together. I think that it's more of a benefit when companies decide to work with one another, and you can cross promotions and cross talent and whatnot. I think it's better for both companies, and that's, again, one of the things that I love about, AEW, who I feel like really, I'm not going to say that they started that. I'm just saying that they've been more open to it. And, even with Impact, when we were doing House of Hardcore shows, Impact and House of Hardcore was crossing paths, because we were more of an indie promotion. So, we worked with one another to provide services and stuff for one another in order to make a kick-ass show. I think it's pretty beneficial, and I kind of think that WWE is missing out on something special there. And I'm not talking down about them or anything to that nature. I'm just saying that I like when companies can work together and talent can work together, because we all love this business of professional wrestling. And so why can't we work together?
Yeah, like I said, what you said, it's better off, but Vince McMahon's Vince McMahon, and he won't work with anybody else.
I mean, who knows? Maybe he will, but I have no idea. I'm just saying my personal opinion is that it's more beneficial for the talent and the companies to just be able to work together as a unit, more so than, just trying to separate themselves and run by themselves. So I love when I see these companies uniting to do these crossovers. I think it's amazing. It is absolutely the best time to be a professional wrestler, and it's the best time to be a fan right now. I mean, sans COVID, it's still like one of the best times in wrestling ever, because you get these crossovers and these things that you never would have seen before.
You said you been there since TNA.
Yes.
Have you had any meetings with Dixie Carter, and does she deserve the bad rap she gets?
I didn't have any meetings with her. I mean, I've met her plenty of times, but I will say that I don't really, I mean, she's okay to me. I don't know her like that to formulate an opinion, but I also don't like to talk bad about people. I just rather leave them completely alone. But in her case, I just don't know her like that. I've said hello, you know, I've been in the room and encountered her, but I don't know her to speak of her character like that.
The big thing that happened last year was the speaking out movement. I know you were outspoken on Twitter about it. Has the atmosphere changed at all?
Well, I believe that was before COVID, yeah. I would say that when the speaking out movement came about, people became a lot more aware. Those who were not aware became a lot more aware of making sure everybody was comfortable. Nobody was being forced to do things. And that part I was very happy about, even though I feel like that should be a thing anytime and all the time. But I feel like there was a change as far as that was concerned. But, you know, again, you know, we have COVID hit, and everybody's pretty much separated. And, you know, so with all of this going on, everything else took a hiatus. And I say that to say that you don't know if it would continue to be different, because, you know, we have all of these protocols in place now due to COVID. So I'm glad that people got a voice, a platform for a voice to speak on, but I always remind people that there's always negative people that want to jump in on something and lie about other people as well. We always have both sides of the coin, and this is no matter what's going on, what movement happens, there's always going to be disingenuous people joining that stuff. But I felt for, you know, a lot of the women. I read so many stories. I was heartbroken by so many things that I read that I just, you know, wasn't even aware of. Again, 7 years in the business, to me, is still considered like being a baby. And most of it for me was behind the scenes. So I never noticed any of those things happening. So, yeah.
You said something about outspoken. One of the other things I wanted to touch on was the cyberbullying and what happened last year with Hannah Kimura. That affected a lot of people in the wrestling community. Do you think that has let up any at all?
How it's affected people?
Yeah, I know the cyberbullying is still out there. It's going to continue to be out there, but do you think it's being better handled now?
Well, it's really hard to handle cyberbullying. That's a really huge subject, and it's mostly because it's cyber. It's not like back in the old days where, and I say old days, and I like dating myself, but, you know, when I grew up, I wasn't bullied like on a computer. I was bullied face to face. I was like beat on and, you know, thrown in lockers and like stuff like that. Like, you know, physical hands-on bullying. But people have found a new way to reach out to the vulnerable, or to people who are struggling with themselves, and to hurt them and attack them without even ever having to meet them. I think that this is always going to be an issue, especially when you can't really address the problem as much. I mean, what are you going to do when somebody's cyberbullying you? You still need to provide, like, so much proof, like, you know, years of proof of bullying and harassment and stuff like that to even move on it. So it's always going to be something that's there until more is done about it on a government standpoint. So, policing and all of that stuff, policing with cyberbullying, that's still a pretty new concept. So I feel like we're still going to see, unfortunately, so many deaths and so many people hurt because other people decide that they want to have somebody else be as miserable as they are, and they want to bully somebody online. And it's really sad. I speak out a lot about it because I hate bullying, period. And I always, if I see it, I say something. And I know a lot of people say to me, you shouldn't attack people, or you shouldn't. And I said, well, they shouldn't attack. Anybody that's going to bully somebody deserves to be attacked back. And I don't mean, like, I'm not talking about physically or whatever, but I have to say something. I can't just sit there and watch it happen, because something should be being done about it. We have young people as young as like 8 and 9 years old, which, that are online for some reason or another, and they're being bullied, or they're being bullied in school and then online, and then they kill themselves. This is wrong. This is absolutely wrong, but it doesn't even matter your age. That's something that I feel really strongly about bullying, period. It doesn't matter whether it's cyberbullying or in person. But you can definitely expect me to say something if I see it, because I don't stand for it.
Well, you say yourself, you kind of date yourself. We're both of us are over 50, and we both experienced bullies. And what was it our parents said? If the bully bothers you, punch him in the mouth, and they'll leave you alone. But you can't do it with these people.
That's definitely true. I mean, everybody was raised differently. I was kind of raised where I had, the best way I could describe it is I was raised with my grandmother and my great-grandmother. So I had a Martin Luther King and a Malcolm X in the house.
Yeah.
So I had two opposing views on how to handle bullying. And one was just walk away, and the other was punch him in the face kind of deal. So I never really knew what to do as far as that's concerned. But you're right, when you have like online bullies, that's something different. But again, I use my platform, and a lot of people will say, and I've even had Tommy say sometimes, why would you even give those people, any energy? Or publicity or whatever. And I just said, well, I just don't like when people bully people. So sometimes I will repost what somebody says, because I know that my fan base basically hates bullying as well, and they will go in on that person, and they'll either deactivate their account. Like, you need to know what it feels like, what you do to other people. Right. It's just wrong. And people feel like nothing can be done to them, but we are starting to get laws in place, thank goodness, because more and more people are committing suicide as a result of bullying and all of that stuff. So I just hope that they put more laws in place with that. But in the meantime, I'm going to fight back the only way that I know to fight back, because I'm never going to be anybody's quote-unquote victim again.
Well, from what I understand, after what happened to Hana Kimura, the Japanese Senate is making cyberbullying accountable. From what I'm understanding.
I mean, it's hard to make it accountable here, and it's just sad because people don't take it as seriously as when you're in person. You don't even get to. They don't even take it as seriously when you're bullied in person, or when you're stalked, stalked and harassed in person. You have to get like a long line of proof to show that this is happening. And this really needs to change all over the world, ASAP, because too many people suffer from it.
Well said. Yeah, that seems to be the problem. Like you said, worldwide, though. It's probably one of the reasons it's hard to enforce.
Well, when you have the internet, you have anybody can be affected. So you could have somebody here talking to somebody from Japan and bullying them. When you're on the internet, you never know who you're talking to. So yeah, I feel like a lot of laws should be like they should start putting it in place everywhere, because it's just sad how many people feel like they would be empowered by belittling other people. I go through it all the time. I just finished being harassed online on Instagram with somebody that, told me that I need to cover up and find my own man because I'm an adulterer and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And I'm just like, I don't think you understand the concept of adultery, because I would have to be, married for that. And I was, but I'm not now. And like, I'm not an adulterer. So it's just, people find ways to harass you. And he really just bullied and bullied and bullied and bullied until I had to block him. He bullied my friends. Like he would respond to all my friends. And this just happened yesterday. And I get it every day. And if I didn't have thicker skin, I would probably have folded by now, and who knows what would have happened. So it's just one of those things where people feel like from the other side of a keyboard, they can say whatever they want to say to you, and that it's fine, and it's not.
Yeah, they have a spine of steel when they're behind a keyboard.
Right. As keyboard warriors.
Exactly, yeah. I was getting ready to say those two exact words, Monique, but yeah. Took the words right out of my mouth. Once again, we're with Monique Dupree from Impact Wrestling in the House of Hardcore here on the Grumpy Old Man Wrestling Podcast. Now, Monique, as I alluded to at the beginning, in addition to wrestling, you have a lengthy film career. I understand, for example, you did several features with Troma Entertainment. You were the first African-American Tromette, and if I'm not mistaken, also the first multiple Tromette as well. Tell us your experience working with that studio, because, Chris and I are big fans of horror, especially, and a lot of their films in particular.
Oh, yeah. Well, Troma's been in operation for as long as I've been born. So Lloyd has been doing his damn thing forever. I kind of dub him the god of independent horror entertainment, because he's been doing this for a long, long time. I had the pleasure of doing a couple of intros to some films for him in the very beginning, and then I'm the first African American Tromette, and then I've been on 3 other times to be a Tromette. I said I was gonna do a 5-time Tromette shoot, but not until I create a Troma belt, because everything is wrestling to me. So I would like to have a Troma wrestling belt, and I would like to do a photo shoot in that belt, and that's when I'll do my 5th-time Tromette. But even before working with them, which Lloyd basically gave me a career to speak of, and I'm so indebted to him for that. But I started out acting when I was about 14, and my first film was Lean on Me,
which is one of my favorite films of all time.
Yes, I just went back and watched it again too, because it's so weird, because I was a totally different human back then. I looked so different. I was 4 shades darker. It's just crazy how time changes you. But I've been in the entertainment industry for over 3 decades. So I do know a little bit about the business. I've always wanted to be in horror and in comedy, and working with Troma, I get to do a little bit of both. And like I said, Lloyd gave me my career, and working with him has been fantastic. And then I feel like he revived my career again by giving me a supporting role in Shakespeare's Shitstorm as Caliban, who was supposed to be a black man and not a woman. And he said, I feel like she's strong enough to carry this supporting character, and just told me to learn the Tempest, and research Caliban and research his mannerisms and how he spoke. And I actually had to learn Shakespearean dialogue and dialect in order to be able to do this role. And people think of Troma and they just think silly and fun and funny.
Toxic Avenger.
Right. I mean, you know, it is all when the product is done, and we do have fun on set and stuff like that, but it's just like any other film where it's a lot of work. I've had people go, "Oh, you worked on a Troma film? That must have been, you know, all fun. Like, there was no work involved." Like, no. We put in days. We did rehearsals. Like, you know, I did it less than some of the other people did because I had a hectic schedule working with Dreamer and doing all of this other stuff. And he was supposed to actually be in the film, but because of his schedule, because they wanted him to do a lead character, he couldn't keep up with the schedule, and he had to not, you know, be in the film, and they had to book somebody else to do it. But it's a lot of work with any film that you do. But Lloyd really gave me, he revived my career because everybody thought since I was in wrestling that I no longer wanted to do film. But that wasn't true at all. So during COVID, I kind of found my film career again.
And it's a lot of carryover with a lot of wrestlers past and present, and you're no exception with that. I also saw that your second role, you were an extra, and this might be something you and I have in common. You were an extra in the movie The Replacement. And
yeah.
And the reason I say that is my father and I were also extras in the crowd for that movie as well. What scene, I mean, what part of the screening of that movie did you go to? Because they had like different screenings, especially in Baltimore, but...
Yeah, it was, they had auditions at the Ravens Stadium, to do parts there, and there was like crowd scenes and stuff like that. But I actually got to go down and meet some of the people, and that was how I discovered that Keanu Reeves had a body double doing like some of the football scenes that I thought he was doing, because I was obsessed with him. That was before I feel like he started really doing all of his own stunts and stuff like that. But yeah, that was during that time, and I filmed for like 2 days or 3 days, something to that effect. And the cheerleaders were there. It was definitely at the stadium. That was the only time that I worked it. But I got to meet a couple of people. I didn't get to meet Keanu Reeves, but I got to go down and meet people when I saw a lot of the other extras were in the stands and stuff like that. So it was a cool experience.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah, the only part I was in is my father and I, they filmed some of the scenes at a preseason game, I think, between the Ravens and the Carolina Panthers, and they filmed one scene where Keanu was like holder for a field goal, and he ran a fake, and he ran in for a touchdown, and then the referees called him for a penalty, and the announcer even said just before that, said, okay, now, no matter what happens, folks, you cheer for him when he runs into the end zone, and then after that, you boo when the referee throws the flag, you know, and they did like 4 takes of that, and then they did another one where I think he threw the winning touchdown or something like that. And that was a lot of fun, but...
Yeah, it's always fun to me, whether you do extra work, because I've done plenty of that, or, you know, no matter what place you hold in a film, for me anyway, because this is what I love to do, it's always so exciting, and I watch everything, and I try to learn from it, because I had always wanted to direct my own film, which I finally ended up doing. I just made the mistake of producing, directing, and also having a role in my movie, and I will never do that again, because that was too much for me to take on, you know, especially for my first time.
Right. You kind of spread yourself too thin.
I did, but it still came out pretty good, and you know, I had a cameo in the film, and Tommy did a part in the movie for me for free, because of all of the stuff that I've done with House of Hardcore. He was just like, it's just an even exchange, and he gave me a shot when most people, you know, wouldn't, because this was my first time directing, and I was very appreciative of that. I mean, it's on Amazon Prime now where you can watch it, so I'm very, very grateful for that opportunity, and I'm very proud of it. as well.
Now, Monique, let me ask you this. You, in addition to yourself being an actor, your brother was a prominent actor, especially in horror, Mr. Tony Todd. A lot of people know him from the Candyman movies. How influential was he with your acting career? Or
he was very influential. I mean, he has an innate love for theater that I never adapted. I mean, I did some theater growing up, but that's not my thing at all. That is definitely his thing. But he's just been an influence as a good human being. Just teaching me, and I never wanted to have anybody like try to pave my way for me. If you know what I mean. So like I always tried to pave my own way, and that's why I stay an independent until I feel like, I could break out or be a breakout actress, so to speak, or what have you. And I feel like you can do that at any age because there's actors of all ages. But he helped me a lot with developing myself and how I take on characters. So I'm forever thankful for that. And you learn stuff each and every day. I'm always still learning from him. I mean, he still does a lot of acting. He just, right now, especially with COVID, he's doing a lot of voiceovers right now, from his area, and being blessed with all of that stuff going on. But, he'll never stop doing film, and definitely never stop theater.
He sounds like he's a great big brother.
He's just a great person all around. But yeah, he is. I mean, we're both Sagittarians, so we kind of bump heads sometimes, but that's to be expected. We're both those fire signs. But I don't know, people will occasionally catch us snapping at each other a little bit on Twitter, because that's where he likes to go, all right, sis, I'm going to need you to calm down with the lack of clothes. And I'd be like, listen, I'm making money, okay? Right. He does that on Twitter. Like, he doesn't send me a text message. That's like all via Twitter, because he put me on the spot, because he know that he could kind of put me in my place by putting me on the spot like that publicly. But that's our relationship. That's who we are. But no matter what, we're always supportive of one another, and always there for one another, and that's never going to change.
Okay. Once again, you're listening to Monique Dupree from House of Hardcore and Impact Wrestling here on the Grumpy Old Man Wrestling Podcast. Monique, before we let you go, please tell our listeners how they can get a hold of you, or where they can reach you, where they can see you. You know the deal.
All your endeavors.
Yes. Well, I always say the easiest thing to do is just to Google Monique Dupree, because I have so many names in so many different places, because I tried to fight for the same name everywhere and it just wasn't working. But my social media, most of it is verified. So you see The Original Gata, THA Original Gata, GATA, on Twitter and Instagram. They're verified. That's me. I'm also on Facebook, which I don't even know. I'm so floored that I recently got like an extra 20,000 followers or so after I was on AEW, and I wasn't even on there like as talent, but my numbers just went up. So I'm on Facebook, verified under the True Original Gata, and you can also find me on Twitch, Snapchat, and all of those other things as Mrs. Tommy Dreamer.
How's the cosplay going on, even with the COVID era?
Well, I haven't been able to do much cosplay, unfortunately, because of COVID. I've been having to think outside the box and do so many other different things with the podcast with my daughter, and doing newfangled stuff with my yoga chair. And then when I go out, to Nashville for Impact and stuff like that, I just haven't been able to do cosplay. But I plan on doing that in the coming months. Like, I dedicated middle of March to April to do a series of cosplay, and I hope to finish my Vixen cosplay to debut that. Not the television show Vixen, I mean the comic book Vixen, like my Vixen. Orange jumpsuit, Vixen.
The Justice League Detroit Vixen, basically.
Yeah. So I'm not a fan of the television show Vixen. That's just me personally. But I plan on unveiling a couple of new cosplays, and I'm excited about that. So that's going to be in the next couple of months.
When I met you, the night I met you, you were dressed as Storm, and you were the best Storm I've ever seen.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that, because that's Mohawk Storm, and a lot of people don't care about Mohawk Storm, or I, didn't even know, who I was, and I was just like, it's Mohawk Storm, but I really appreciate that, because that's my favorite Storm to cosplay is Mohawk Storm.
You're talking to two comic book geeks, and that was my favorite era of the X-Men also.
Yeah, it definitely is, and for me as well. I also love cosplaying Wonder Woman, but I love that because I double it as Nubia.
Yes. Yes. Right.
So
yes.
That's why I love it too. I put it on with the intention of saying that I'm Wonder Woman, but then I appreciate the people that come up to me and go, "You're Nubia," because then I know that they know. Right. So I get that little guilty pleasure in all of that. So, and that was all because of Saint, because I was a little bit of a comic book geek, but all my 2 decades that I've spent with that man, and we've cultivated like comic book geeks, and then he made me a comic book geek. So I'm forever indebted to him for turning me into this monster, who loves comics so much. And I just love what I love. I don't know about everything, but he started me on Birds of Prey, and then I fell in love with Gail Simone and her writing of Birds of Prey, and now we're friends, and I talk to her on Twitter all the time and whatever, because I admire, she helped develop the characters that I fell in love with, and so I will always love the way she wrote them, because she's the one that made me fall in love with those characters.
Yes, Gail is a fantastic writer. I read anything she writes. You mentioned the Wonder Woman. The second time I think I met you was you were dressed as Wonder Woman at one of the nerd parties, and it was fantastic. Yeah. It was fantastic.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, because I don't just, and I know people, before the word cosplay even came around, in the States, and I'm not going to say I'll just say I used to dress up all the time, and people would laugh at me and go, "Why are you dressing up like that?" Now, this was 20 years ago, 20 some odd years ago. I would dress up, and they're like, "It's not Halloween yet," and, people would laugh at me. I didn't know the term cosplay, so I would just say it's Halloween every day to me.
Right.
So that's what I would do. I would find things to dress up as characters that I admired. There was no costumes that I can go buy a full costume. I had to buy little pieces and create things my own way. That's when I first cosplayed Vixen, but I had a black vinyl outfit on, but I had her hairstyle and made my own amulet. And I was just like, you know what? I'm Vixen. I don't have the orange, but I'm Vixen.
There you go.
But then years later, I started seeing cosplaying popping up, and it became a thing. And I was like, when I was doing this, everybody laughed at me and said, Halloween isn't, yet, and it's the summertime and stuff like that. And here there's a whole movement and a whole culture to this thing. And now we even have what I like to refer to as cosplay snobs, where if you don't have everything exactly right, they take the fun out of it. In other words, I feel like cosplaying is still supposed to be about you dressing up as characters that you admire and love, and who gives a flying fuck. Sorry if I wasn't supposed to curse.
That's okay. We let the language fly.
I cuss like a sailor.
I was like, who gives a flying fuck whether it's exactly like it's depicted in a comic book page or on television. It's about that person dressing up and portraying that feeling and that emotion of a character that they admire so much that they wanted to bring it to life themselves. That's what cosplaying is supposed to be. And that's what I always take it as. So I never take it seriously where I have to have $1,000 outfit and every detail has to be exactly the way it's depicted in a comic book or something like that. That's not how I do cosplay because I have fun with it. So that's, if you're looking for that, don't look at my stuff because that's not what I do.
You talk about cosplay. I don't want to talk about, you say, the purists out there and then the snobs. When they cast movies nowadays, like Jamie Foxx got Electro for the Spider-Man movie, I was online and I actually see the racists come out because in the comics, Electro is depicted as the white man.
Right.
Now, what's your take on this? On the whole nerd culture, just the purists out there to say that's not our Electro. If you know what I mean.
Them. That's it. That's all. Fuck them. That's it. That's all. That's really the whole extent. And I'm a very positive person, but I just hate stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to look beyond color and, you know, all of these different kind of things that people build these things in their.
Hello?
For any type of change. Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I covered my microphone. They're not willing to adapt to any type of change or anything like that. I say I always give something a chance. I want to see it first. You know what I'm saying? And then I'll say, well, I don't really like this. This is not my cup of tea, but I'm not going to tear it down or bring race into it or anything like that. It's either a product comes out and you like it or you don't like it. And that's it. I mean, like, when me watching X-Men to this day, I do not like that Halle Berry was short, i.e. Storm, and that Wolverine was taller than Storm. I do not like that fit at all. I loved, you know, his depiction of Wolverine. However, I thought that in no universe, in no world, should Storm ever be that short. But that's my personal opinion.
Right.
And that had nothing to do with race, of course, or anything else. It was just my personal feeling. And it wasn't even her performance. It had nothing to do with Halle's performance. It was just, I know that she's supposed to be a tall, statuesque, dark-skinned, regal woman.
Yeah, plus
like an Iman type character.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know that they might have said Iman was too old or whatever, but like a tall, you know, darker woman to do the role.
Plus, I remember too, Monique, in the comics, she was actually from Africa. I think she was from Kenya. I thought they should have made her more kind of like some of the characters in Black Panther, kind of like Shuri, or, you know, or his guard, I forget their name, you know.
Absolutely, but still, like, one of the things that I fell in love with about Storm the most, because, again, Saint was the one that introduced me to the Storm character, and I had started, you know, reading the comic books, and I was like, oh my God, this woman is like, she's like me. It was somebody I was able to idolize, and it's like, she's tall, you know, she has a statuesque figure, you know, she's darker. I mean, just like all of these features, but her main feature was that she was this tall woman. And so I never saw anywhere depicted anywhere where Wolverine was tall and Storm is short. Never in any book anywhere had I ever seen that. And I had an issue with the way it looked visually, especially when they did this, the scene, I forget which one that was right now because I've had a lot of wine. But like when I saw them standing next to each other and he knew exactly what I was saying, I was like, nope, I don't like it. And he started laughing. He said, I know, Mo. I don't like it either. Like, I don't like that. And he was like, no offense to Halle Berry. And I was like, yeah, you know, no offense to her because I love her as an actress, but I just don't think she was physically right for that role. But again, that's just my humble opinion. But am I going to go out there and like, you know, tear anything down because of it? No. My point is that we all have opinions. It's like assholes. But, you know, stop trying to tear things down or rip things down, you know, because of your own views. And you're going to have all those purist people and everybody that has all of these. Don't even get me started on it. I don't want to. I'm trying not to say anything wrong, but at the same time, I start getting upset. So
you're trying to bite your tongue.
Right.
I'm trying my best to bite my tongue, but sometimes I don't, and so I'm trying to stay within my own limits before I start unleashing my tongue.
Okay. Well, much appreciated, though. But you know what, Chris and I we let things go fly. So if you have something on your mind, speak it. But once again, we're with Monique Dupree from House of Hardcore and Impact here on the Grumpy Old Man Wrestling Podcast. Monique, you've been very generous with your time. I understand you're with family at the moment, and you kind of went to a secluded room to talk to us, so we definitely appreciate that, and appreciate you in general for this interview. It was very interesting.
I really appreciate you guys. I do want to say one other thing that may not directly have anything to do with, like, or wrestling or horror. I do want to say to people, to whoever listens or hears this, that I want you guys to understand that, you know, because we all, like we just said, we all love professional wrestling. We all have, like, horror, you know, fandom and whatnot. Celebrities are human beings as well. And that being said, them being human beings, they have their own personal, private life. Just because you think you know what their lives are or are supposed to be doesn't make it so. It's very wrong to attack people based on what you think you know from a Google search, because believe it or not, you cannot find out everything about a celebrity from a Google search, because these people are not living in their living rooms. They're not in their bedrooms. They're not on their text messages or their phones. People don't know what's going on in their private life. That's why that part of their life is private. It's for you not to know, especially in wrestling. People don't understand that there's angles for things, and then there's real life. And I've been getting caught in a crossfire lately with dealing with all of this stuff. And I just want people to understand and respect the privacy of other people. You would say to me, well, this person is still married or that person is still X, Y, and Z. How do you know that? Were you at their house when they made decisions? Did they call you and tell you what changes they made to their lives? Like, some people just don't want everybody to know what the hell is going on in their life. So how about we give a little respect to people and shut the fuck up and just enjoy what they do in their lives that we enjoy. Like, if you enjoy a wrestler, enjoy the wrestler. Forget about what the wrestler's personal life is. Same thing with actors. I have to talk about that with my brother all the time as well. I've been dealing with it a lot as well as of late, you know, because of who I'm dating. But it's wrong for people to jump online and post their insinuations or attack people based on what they think they know. So how about we just enjoy what people do, what their art is, what their craft is, and leave their personal lives the fuck alone. That's all.
Well said. Well said. Once again, Monique Dupree from Impact and House of Hardcore here on the Grumpy Old Man Wrestling Podcast. One more thing I wanted to ask you before you go, Monique. You mentioned that you had a podcast with your daughter earlier. What's the name of the podcast and where can we find that?
It's called 5 Questions with the Gatas, the original and the mini, and we're actually premiering the first episode in the next couple of weeks. I'm going to post it on my social media. We're just basing our interviews because my co-host is 8 years old.
Okay.
So, she just wanted to do this project, and I figured since we are experiencing COVID and everything, why not? We wanted to interview what we felt to be regular, everyday people who make other people's lives better. Essential workers, people that's lost a lot of weight that, made their lives better, and essentially the people around them, like just all kinds of little different people. But my daughter said, well, we have to interview some wrestlers too because I'm curious about some things. So that came from an 8-year-old. So I guess we're going to have to interview some wrestlers as well. But it's just going to be like that, and it's going to be on my YouTube channel, and I'll put it on my Instagram, IGTV as well.
Well, it sounds like she has her mother's media savvy, so sounds like a good
she
show.
really
We're looking forward to it.
She knows what she wants to do. I'm just the person that's putting it together. I'm doing it the way I'm doing it because of the things that she asked for. And I'm trying to make that happen. So it'll be interesting. And, of course, this is not a project that I'm doing to try to get, a bunch of followers or whatever. This is something that is kind of a passion project for my daughter. And I like to make their dreams, a reality. So that's why I'm doing this.
Excellent. All right, Monique, we appreciate you coming on to the show and hope to talk to you again soon.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
See ya.
All right, bye.
Bye. Folks, welcome back. Rick Crab with
Shithead.
With the shithead, the dickhead, the pain in my hole, Chris Bilito. All right, we want to thank Monique Dupree once again for a great interview. Chris, she
nailed it out of the park.
Oh my God, she covered so many topics and she did it very well. And
yes.
Looking forward to talking to her again. And
like I said, off the air, I text her. Her door's always open. If she wants anything to promote, she's welcome back.
No doubt, no doubt. All right, so Chris, on that note, I think we should wrap things up.
Without seeing a hole.
Without seeing a hole, well...
The whole thing?
I don't know. Whole thing and nothing but the whole thing. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm glad that they didn't wear that into the angle. They're still trying to make...
Bullshit. They did it on Wednesday night.
They did it they didn't do it tonight, so...
Yeah.
At least they
didn't. Well, we don't know because of we were watching some captions. I'll download it and watch it later.
Yeah. Well, you know bits and pieces of it, but... the T-shirt is coming out. You know it is.
Ow, my hole.
Yeah. I'll tell you what it reminded me of, and I'm going to play a little snippet of it in the video. You remember back in the day, Ice-T had the metal band Body Count?
Yes.
Well, remember on the album that had Cop Killer, he had a song called Voodoo?
Oh, my eye, bitch.
Yeah, that's what that reminded me of.
My hole, bitch.
I think somebody should either do a song parody of that, or if they bring back the Mixed Match Challenge, pair her with Al Snow and call them Head Like My Hole.
Head Like My Hole. I endorse that. I endorse that wholeheartedly.
Okay. We might even put that on a T-shirt if we open a Pro Wrestling Tees shop one day, which we might actually do. Stay tuned for that one, folks. On that note, Chris, do you have anything?
You see me at C Filito on Twitter and Christopher James Filito on Facebook.
All right, and of course follow this channel, subscribe, like, share those videos, especially this one with Monique. It was an excellent episode. I'm looking forward to hearing comments from you folks about that. So thank you all for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
See ya.